Right before we jump into this video, if you'd like to take better pictures in only 11 days, well, I created a free mini video course that you can sign up for right now at FroKnowsPhoto.com/11 days. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Panasonic 50-1.4 Pro
L-mount Alliance lens
for, I guess, well, L-mount cameras, but more specifically in this case, I used it out in the real world on the Panasonic S1 when I went out and shot some horsies at a horsey stable. Now, I do want to remind you that you can download sample raw files over on the website as well as the link that is on the screen. And you remember how I said that this was a pro lens, and it's not just me saying pro, it's actually written here, right there. It says pro. So they're considering this to be a pro lens. Now, this is one of only 3 current native lenses at the time of recording this for the Panasonic S system. In 2020 and 2021, there will be more native lenses, but this is a review of this bad boy right here. So this is a big and heavy 50-1.4. I personally loved it, by the way, and we're gonna go over the images a little later, but I really enjoyed using this on the S1. It weighs in at 2.1 pounds or 955 grams, which is interesting because it's heavier than this lens right here, which is the Canon 50-1.2 RF. This is a 1.2, this is a 1.4. Why is the 1.4 bigger than the 1.2? I don't really know, but I kind of like them both. So putting this 50 back down here, this is a sturdy lens. It does feel really nice in the hands. It's got nice metal feel to it. You've got the L mount back here that's nice and metal. I mean, of course it better be. It's not gonna be plastic for the price of this lens right here. It is weather sealed, but you would expect that with a pro lens like this. Now, there's something that I don't particularly like about the lens, and that's this right here. This is the Aperture Ring. You can turn it, or you can go to A, which is auto, which is kind of where there should be a little lock button so that you can't accidentally turn it and bump it and end up being on the wrong thing. Like, I get it. Some people want to, imagine they're shooting film like the old days and they're changing the aperture on the ring, or maybe it's easier for video, but as it pertains to photos, if you still do this, it's maybe time to graduate to doing it inside the camera. Unless you love going slow and changing your aperture here, then by all means, go ahead and do that. But Panasonic, could you guys please put a lock on this? Because that way I won't accidentally turn it when I'm taking it out of the bag, or even something as simple as putting it on to the body. Now, another thing that I'm gonna point out that I don't like, that some people may like, is right here. This is your manual focus ring. Right now, it's in autofocus. When you do this, it's now in manual focus. Do you know how many times I put this in or take this out of my bag where I'm accidentally doing one or the other, and then I try to go shoot photos and I'm like, or I shoot a bunch of photos and the focus is off and I'm like, why? And I'm like, oh, because I have to do that with the lens. Now, if you're wondering if this lens has image stabilization built in, no, it does not, but that's not too big of a deal because the body has the image stabilization built in, which is kind of the point of having these mirrorless cameras these days, because you have image stabilization. Now, on some of the other Panasonic lenses that they've released, they do have their dual IS system. This is not one of those lenses. Now, in terms of what the filter thread is, this is a 77mm filter thread. I do not recommend that you put any UV protection filters on the outside of this lens. I've never been a big fan of UV filters. Even when I worked at a camera store and they made the store more money, I still refused to sell most of them, except when I was at Ritz, they used to sell ProMaster, and they were the shittiest filters you could ever find. And I'm like, don't buy this, it sucks. And then when I moved over to another camera store, I was like, they're like, sell the good ones, which is B+W. They are very good filters. And so if you're gonna get a filter on a good piece of glass like this, make sure you get the best of the best with honors, sir. Or if you're using a circular polarizer or an ND filter, then of course you're gonna end up putting that on the front of this lens. A couple more things before we jump into the sample images that I captured with this and the S1. This has a dual AF system, which means that it has linear motors as well as the old school stepping motors. So I guess it's better to have two, so it's 2 for 1. Maybe that explains the $2,300 price tag of this lens. To put that into perspective, the Canon 50 1.2 RF that I showed you earlier is the same price. $2,300 is a lot of money for a lens. But if you're a full-time pro, of course you want to get the best of the best with Honor Sir, and it's going to do a nice job. This lens does a very nice job, but how does it smell? Smells like 7th grade art class in Miss Ettinger's class. Why? Because that's where there were X-Acto knives and they were so sharp as this 50 1.4. Now, one more final test before we get to the images, the wind tunnel test. Yeah, passes. Oh, and by the way, on the back it says certified by Leica. I mean, I guess if it has the L mount, then this is considered to be, you could put this on any other L mount camera, which is pretty good if you're part of the L Mount Alliance, which I'm not actually part of the L Mount Alliance. Well, technically I am because I have this body right here, and that's until we send it back. Now let's move in to this first image. Now, a lot of these shots you're gonna see are taken at 1.4. We were shooting inside the horse stables where there was awesome light coming in. You can check out the real world review for the entire real world review with the horsies. But here in this case, you had awesome skylights up above, which were strewing in awesome streaks of sunlight, which made for some nice images. Now in this case, we're at 1.4. I zoom in all the way on the horsey's eyeball because he's got 2 different color eyes, or she. I didn't check. Let me check down below. Nope, can't tell whether it's a male or female from this area, but they do have a beard. So maybe that means it's a male with nice emo hair. Super tack sharp right on the eye. The focus is super fast. It is very accurate in combination with the S1. I didn't have any problems when I was using it, so I was very happy with the tack sharp focus even at 1.4. And the next image is pretty similar to this one. It's just with the horse in it. But as we zoom in on the horse's hair and the ears, I don't see any chromatic aberrations coming in from any of the backlight that's happening. It looks nice. I don't see fringing. I like the colors, I like the tones, and of course, I really like the sharpness. Would you like to speed up your raw workflow or give yourself a great starting point? Well, if so, we created 14 custom Lightroom presets that you can check out at FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. Over there, you can play with the sliders, see the before, see the afters, and see if you like them. And if you do like them, they're on sale right now for 40% off. For example, here's a couple of images edited with FroPak 1. Now moving on to a closer image, the horse trainer, she had on an engagement ring because she was recently engaged, and I'm like, well, you've got these horses, you've got the engagement ring, why don't you place it on the head of the horse? And the horse closed its eyes as if it was a calming touch, and I thought this was a good opportunity to try and get a more macro-esque type of shot to see how close we could get. Now this one was done at f2.8 to give myself a little more leeway, and it looks very nice as well. Now one of the scenes that was my favorite from the real world review and while using the 50 1.4 was the shower scene, and no, not the one from Psycho. That didn't happen here. There was no bleeding horses. It wasn't like waking up in the bed Mo Green and finding a horse head right there. Not gonna happen. But the horse was just getting its monthly shower, and man, it was perfect. I really enjoyed this scene. I loved the tack sharp focus, even at 1.4. The lens is beautiful. There's really not much else to say other than it is a fantastic lens at a price of $2,300. Moving quickly through the next one, just to show you what the black and white tones look like. Again, nice and boomified. The tones look great. The sharpness is great, because in this one, I got a little closer to the horse so you can see how at 1.4, the background blows out. Moving on to the next, more 1.4 shots. I just really feel that the tones and the clarity that I'm able to pull out of this lens in combination with the S1 and the RAW files worked out really well. And just more shots. This one I went to f2.2 because they would be walking, and I wanted to get them both in focus and give myself a little bit of leeway just in case the camera missed, and it didn't miss. Let's zoom in. She's nice and sharp, because that is where my focus was. Then we transitioned outside. I got down on a super low angle, laying in the grass to get this close-up shot, trying to do some of the close focusing thing at f2.5. And this also gives you an opportunity to check out the colors and the tones that this lens is capable of pulling. This isn't really an extreme situation for testing autofocus, but in the walking scenes where the horse is walking towards me, the autofocus is fast, it's great. This is gonna be a fantastic lens to have in your bag. Well, you don't have a lot of choices at the time of recording this for your S system, but this would be a great one for stills as well as a great one for shooting video. As you can see, out of focus areas of the dandelions, drawing us into the horse's snout as it's eating some of the grass. Moving on, just another black and white shot, just showing you something out of focus in the foreground, drawing us into the subject right here. Again, the tones, the blacks, the whites look fantastic to me. And I threw in these last couple of images just to give you some shots outside with a lot of different color to show you what the bokeh can look like in the background, especially with this close-up one at 1.4. You can barely see that there is a horse out of focus in the background, because it is super blown out. And again, you can download that RAW file to check it out for yourself. Now, since we didn't talk a lot about video, we did use this to shoot video during the real world review. So here is a sample of what that looks like. We are using the S1 as well as the 51.4 to shoot all of these videos. We're filming in 10-bit 420 4K in the HLG mode internally. So there you can see how it looks for video on the S1, shooting it in full frame. Now, if you do punch into Super 35, it's gonna give you a 75mm equivalent, which is really nice for when you are doing video interviews. So to start to wrap this up, I was really happy with the results that I was able to get from this lens. But the major question here with the L-mount Alliance is when Sigma comes out with their 50-1.4 art lens, that's probably gonna be less money than $2,300, why would you end up going with the Panasonic? Are the Panasonic ones considered native? And are the Sigma ones also considered native because they're L-mount and it's for the L-mount? And they're all a part of the
L-mount Alliance?
I guess all of that stuff is to be determined. So don't forget, you can download those sample RAW files. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to give this a like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already done so. And that is where I'm gonna leave it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.